He looked at her as if he wanted to pick her up and carry her away from this town. "Mr. Slade, this is my schoolroom." Isabelle took a step forward and matched his glare with one of her own. "And it will be my schoolroom until the day your attempts to get me dismissed meet success. But until that day arrives, I will handle disruptions in the manner I see fit." Isabelle gasped as Martin uncrossed his arms and moved so that he was only a foot away from her. He smelled like horses and fresh air and hot days in the sun. "The manner you handled this disruption sets an example to the other students," Martin said. "You're allowing them to think they can resort to violence." Isabelle couldn't stop the childish scoff and eye roll she emitted. "I would never teach children to resort to violence. Can you honestly tell me that your children have been more violent since starting school with me?" Martin was silent, and Isabelle allowed herself a satisfied smile at having won a point over him. Isabelle suddenly felt quite benevolent. Martin Slade had to be at least a decade older than she was, but it looked like she was going to have to be the mature one. He really wasn't a bad man, just cantankerous and overly protective of his children. "Look, we got off to a bad start, and I do apologize for losing my temper with you." Isabelle gave Martin a magnanimous smile and raised her hands in a gesture of peace. "But I don't think you're a bad person. I just think you've attacked me unfairly twice now, and I'd like you to understand that I really am doing my best, and I am not the devil incarnate come to ruin your rather wonderful children." Martin's face softened all of a sudden, and Isabelle thought she saw, for the first time, who he really was beneath his harsh words and ominous features. It was as Kathy had said. He wasn't bad or cruel. In fact, he was looking at her with the most intense gaze, as if he, too, was taking her in. "Now, do you think we could start over?" Isabelle asked, her voice low. She didn't know why, but as he stepped closer, her heart began to race as she whispered her final question. "Or should I expect to fight with you every week?" Then Martin did something wholly unexpected. He reached out and placed his rough, calloused hand against her cheek. Isabelle didn't flinch. To her surprise, she didn't want to. A man had never touched her like this, but Isabelle had never wanted any man. Until now. She couldn't think how Martin Slade could cause such a riot of emotions within her. She couldn't think at all. She could only tip her head back as he leaned down and kissed her on the mouth. His lips were gentle, but it was no soft brush of a kiss. He moved his lips against her, and Isabelle felt her own mouth move in response. She couldn't help this, and she had also been unable to stop herself from fighting back against his accusations. In short, he was a man she was unable to ignore. Isabelle's hands found purchase on his firm chest, and she sucked in her breath as Martin tilted his head to make the kiss deeper. He had grabbed onto her waist with one hand, while the other still cupped her cheek. The strength of his hands was making her weak in the knees. There was such an intensity about him, and something akin to desperation, as if he had been starving for Isabelle, as if somehow he couldn't help but kiss her as if his life depended on it. And just as when they had fought verbally, Isabelle found herself matching his intensity as she moved her hands up to his shoulders and pressed her body against his torso. A child's shout from just outside the doorway brought Isabelle back to reality. She gasped and pulled away. Martin instantly released her and took 2 steps backward as they remembered where they were. In a public schoolroom with the door open to the outside, where his own children were playing in the yard. Isabelle felt her eyes widen as she clapped her hands over her mouth.